It's time for me to see what time it is. Guess who's back? It's the commish, here with our week 1 previews, and it's time for you guys to see how you're going to match up against everyone else in the league. So let's start with week 1. You already saw it. 2 original owners in this one, Steven in US1, taking on Milan in the 6. My prediction was Milan in the 6 is going to win this one, and here's why. When I look at the matchups, well, first off, Milan's beat US1 2 times last year in the regular season and the consolation playoffs. And he's got, a few edges. But at quarterback, it's fairly even is how I see it. Running back, I gave the edge to Milan. I mean, US1 has a guy that got cut, dressed. I think he just got signed to the practice squad, though. Wide receiver actually gave the edge to US1. He's got more, big playmakers, guys like Tyreek Hill. Tight end, I gave the edge to Milan. He's got 2 legit starters where US1 maybe one, And in the RWT spots, I gave the edge to Milan. I think Chris Thompson's going to get him some PPR points, and that might have been a really good keeper for you, actually. Kicker, I gave the edge to US1. I mean, he got Gauskowski early in the draft. We all saw his preview. At defense and DL, I gave the edge to US1. Anza on a contract year, and I think the Raiders' defense is going to be horrible for Milan. Linebacker, I see it pretty even. Defensive back, edge US1. I think Marcus Peters makes some big plays. And in the defensive player's flex spot, gave the edge to Milan. So you can see Milan's got some edges in the key roles, though. Running back, tight end, RWT. So that's going to be the difference. It's going to be a long year for US1. Milan starts out with a win. Week 2, got new owner saving Matt's Ryan taking on divisional opponent Chris in True North. True North looks like definitely a contender to win it all this year. I got him winning this one. It's a divisional game. And definitely a lot more edges. I mean, at quarterback, I gave the edge to Glenn in this one, surprisingly, even though True North has Aaron Rodgers, because I think Matty Ice has a better matchup than Aaron Rodgers because he plays the Seahawks. Running back and wide receiver and tight end, I gave the edge all to Chris here. Glenn only has really one running back starter. Chris has Antonio Brown, Cooks. I mean, enough said there. And, Martellus Bennett and Braid at tight end. So in the RWT slot, I pretty much called it even. I think it really comes down to who has the better year, Brandon Marshall or Des Bryant in that one. Kicker, this one's interesting. I gave the edge to Glenn, but for the week 1 matchup, it will be Lutz versus Forbath. They play each other on Monday night, so that'll be interesting to watch for both teams. In the defensive positions, I gave defensive line, linebacker, and the defensive player's flex spot all edge to Chris in that one. Defense, I gave the edge to Glenn. I think San Francisco will actually play pretty well against Carolina. I know they're hyping up McCaffrey, but I still think San Fran's going to be a team to watch out for under the radar. And really, most of the defensive edges are really come down, especially at the defensive player flex spot. Chris has 3 legit starting linebackers in that slot. So that's why True North is going to get the win, and obviously we're looking at him as being a contender this year. Billsy Bob Tim Horton, second-year owner, taking on new owner Brandon and Wolves out of the South. I give the second-year owner the win in this one. Surprisingly, though, because I gave a lot of edges to Brandon in this one. So basically, I gave 5, 6, 7 edges to Brandon, and then I gave Danny 4 edges. But here's how it works out. Basically, Danny has the edge at quarterback, and the way I see it is Cam Newton still hurt, right? We'll find out. And then I gave the edge to Danny at running back. He's got 3 touchdown producers there. In the RWT spot, I gave it to Danny because Mike Williams is still hurt. And then at linebacker, I gave him the edge because of Quan Alexander, really. But for the edge for Brandon, I gave him the edge just because of Michael Thomas was the reason, the only really good wide receiver out of the 2 teams. Tight end, I gave it to Brandon. I mean, he's got one of the best groups in the league. Edge at kicker, edge at defense, edge at defensive line. He's got Khalil Mack, but I mean, there are question marks about Aaron Donald. And then at defensive back, I just have him having better playmakers, guys like Jalen Ramsey. And then again, just like True North, he's got 3 legit linebackers in the DB spot. So Interesting that I gave the edge to Wolves here, or to Billsy Bob Tim Horton, but I just think he will find a way because his running backs are going to have big days. Next matchup, we got Ryan and Mr. Longyard taking on Luke and Too Good for a Name. Longyard, a new owner. It's interesting, these guys' this season's been defined by Kansas City running back. Spencer Ware went down for Longyard, and then Kareem Hunt traded by Too Good for a Name for obviously the future. Looking at the matchup, I gave more edges to Ryan than I did Luke for sure. I gave Ryan the edge in running back. I think AP might go off, and Gurley against Indianapolis is a good matchup. Tight end, edge Ryan. Vance McDonald maybe making an impact. Got the edge in kicker. Defense, just a better matchup. Defensive lineman, I just don't see who's getting the sacks for Luke. And then definitely at linebacker, he's got Miller and Clowney sack specialists. And then for Luke, I gave him the edge in wide receiver. Too many question marks for Ryan. RWT, definitely Luke. He's got Eric Decker there. And in the defensive back position, for sure, he's got three legit starting strong safeties. And defensive player, I saw no apparent advantage. So given the win to Mr. Longyard in this one, I think Ryan has better advantage in this one and will upset Luke and Too Good for a Name in this one. Next one, you saw another divisional matchup, this one out of the East. John and My Ball Zach Ertz versus Robert and Templars. Is this a changing of the guard? I think it will eventually be for the future. And I got John winning this one. So basically, they're pretty even in a lot of positions. I saw them even in defensive player, defensive back, kicker, tight end. I thought it was even, and at quarterback even with Dak versus Mariota there. Mariota playing that really bad Oakland defense, so I think he's going to put up big numbers. Interesting one too, even at defense. It's New Orleans Saints versus the Vikings, so that's a Monday night game. That should be interesting for both owners to watch that one. And then basically the only edge I gave Robert was in wide receiver. He's got three really good ones there, legit stars there. And then I gave the running back edge to John, I think just because of Fournette. RWT spot, I just think there's three bums really dressed for Robert right now. Definitely the edge in defensive line. He's got pass rushers at linebacker for sure. Robert had two injured guys dressed last time I looked. And defensive player flex spot too, Honey Badger in there. I think he'll definitely sweeten the load there. Next game, another divisional battle. Susan Fighting Geese taking on Joshua and Sasha Heineken. Basically, Geese blew out Sasha last year, and I think that she's going to win again. Quarterback, I thought it was even. Stafford, better matchup than Drew Brees, so I think that one's going to be interesting. I saw a defensive back and defensive player, flex even, kicker even. And then I gave the edges for Susan pretty much all the offensive positions. At wide receiver, I think Fitz still has a lot left. Tight end, two really reliable guys there, and wide receiver depth, the reason in the RWT spot. Linebacker too, I think getting Kuechly definitely helped. Whereas I gave the edge for Joshua on defense. I think Houston strong in this one for sure against Jacksonville. And then defensive line, I think I gave the edge there just because of Jason Pierre-Paul, really. Next, another divisional matchup. It's George and Pack Attack for Sean and Drink AJ OJ. It might look like, Sean, you beat Pack Attack in the first year we ever played, but Pack Attack never joined until 4 games in. So those are the two legit games you guys have played. So this is pretty much the rubber match then. Obviously, year one, Pack took over there in week 4. So quarterback, gave the edge to George. Too many weapons for Eli here. Running back, edge George. He's got beast mode. So those are the only edges I gave George, though. Two pretty good key positions to have an edge in. But Sean basically got an edge in 5 position groups. And I saw it even for kicker. Both have good kickers. Defense even. 2 tough matchups. Defensive line, I got it even. No advantage there. And DP, the same thing. I gave the edge to Sean, definitely in wide receiver. Watch out for Keenan Allen this year. Tight end for sure. George has 2 bums in there right now. The RWT spot too. I mean, George has 2 Jets receivers. That can never be a good thing. And then the edge for Sean and linebacker for sure. Interesting to watch in this one, though. They'll have Monday night linebackers in there, Kendricks and Jatavis Brown, so they'll be watching those guys on Monday night. And then the edge for Sean for sure. I think he's got some cornerbacks that could make some big plays. So next up, we got Lucas and Green Lightning taking on Krista and Storm. Divisional matchup, two original owners. Storm has owned Lucas, beating him 3-0. Beat him every year. And in this one, it's going to be pretty tight. I mean, we just found the news that Elliott will be available week 1, so I got Lucas getting the edge in 6 positions, where Krista has the edge in 3. I got QB, they're even. I think Wentz and RW3, kind of similar matchup there. I got them even on the DP flex. And basically the edges for Krista, definitely a linebacker. She's got 3 beauties there. Gave her the edge at kicker too, and then the edge at wide receiver. I think Doug Baldwin is for real in Seattle. For Lucas, I gave him the edge in running back. Obviously, Elliott's there, so he's got the edge. Tight end, I think Orange Julius will have a big year. Of course, this is with Miami playing. RWT, I gave the edge to Lucas. He has guys who are just going to be involved and get points, where I don't see much for Krista there. Defense, I gave it to Lucas, obviously with Bill Belichick. Defensive line, Lucas. Bosa is for real. And at defensive back, I like the matchups for Lucas in that one. So it'll be finally a time for Lucas to beat Krista in this one. That's what I've predicted. And I think he finally gets the win 4 times the charm, I guess, in this one. And then in this week's Stinker of the Week, it's the Commish in his first ever stinker, taking on state-controlled monsters. Reason why I have this as a stinker, it was supposed to be the championship rematch, but obviously Monsters screwed us over, so obviously put us in a tough spot, but I do give myself the win in this one. I gave myself the edge in 6 different positions. I actually gave Monsters the edge in 2. And then have ourselves even at wide receiver. It's pretty close. Even at kicker. And I also have us even at defensive flex. So QB, I gave myself the edge just because Luck's not playing. So obviously I got the edge there. Running back, I gave it to Monsters. He's got a really good group of running backs. Whoever takes over this team is going to be pretty happy. Tight end, I gave the edge to me with Greg Olson. RWT, I gave the edge for me. Too many questions for Monsters. Defense, I gave the edge to Monsters in this one. I think the Rams versus Tolzien should do pretty well. Defensive line, I gave the edge for me. I think JJ is going to have a big game in the Houston Strong game. And then linebacker, gave the edge to me. Monster has 2 guys that aren't even in the league. And then at defensive back, I gave the edge to me. 3 good guys. So it might be the only time ever you see the commission, the stinker. It is the first time ever being in there. And it really is just because this game was supposed to be the championship rematch. It's a bit of a joke now. And then the last game we're going to feature, it's the game of the week, guys. The West Division will be featured. We got last year's West Division champ, Brian in the 12th man. He's been a league champion in this format, whereas Ryan and Deuce Bombers, we all know, have him predicted to have the perfect season. I got him getting the win here, obviously. Could be a changing of the guard here officially between the 2 teams. Reason why this one's the game of the week, too, is just because of the history. These 2 teams met in week 1 last year in the championship rematch. Brian won that one because he also won the title game in 2015. So Deuce Bombers has obviously been bitten by Brian in the 12th man, and will be looking to get some revenge in this one. And basically I have Lucas having the edge in every single position except 2 where I have them even. So I got them even at wide receiver at the moment. Reason being is just because Julio and AJ for Brian, and you got Evans and Cooper for the Deuce Bombers. So
both teams have really good receivers. DP, I have it even, but I gave the edge for Deuce Bombers and everything else. I gave them the edge in quarterback, just because Rivers will be in Denver in a no-fly zone. I think that's a tough matchup. Running back gave the edge to Deuce Bombers. He's got David Johnson, rated the #1 fantasy player. Edge to Deuce Bombers and tight end. He's got Gronk. RWT, I gave it to Deuce Bombers just because he has Jaquiz Rogers. He's a starter for 3 games. I actually did give one edge to Brian. I lied. I gave him the edge in kicker. I think he's got the edge there. Deuce Bombers, that's one weakness. A New York Jets kicker, that's not so good. Defense, I gave the edge to Deuce Bombers. Giants and Dallas is going to be tough for Brian. Defensive line, I gave the edge to Deuce Bombers. Look out for Daniel Hunter. Edge for Deuce Bombers and linebacker, just a better 3-man group. And in defensive back, I mean, he's got Landon Collins, basically the IDP player of the year last year. So I see this being a change of the guard in the West. Obviously, this is predicted with Tampa Bay and Florida still playing. We will find out if they do play. If they don't play, it could obviously be a much different story. But that is your Week 1 game previews. And I want to wish you guys the best of luck. And I'm really excited to get this started.